The new witness on the stand, Mngqibisa-Thusi, has detailed what he saw when an alleged intruder entered Kelly Khumalo's family home. Now, earlier in the day, Thusi detailed his years-long friendship with the late football star. Thusi says he went outside for a short while to smoke a cigarette when a man with a firearm approached him from inside the house.
After a short while after having entered the house,
that was when
that's when I saw that's where I saw someone, which means that this person came into the kitchen because it just appeared just next to us, close to us.
Thusi said he initially thought the person was someone that Mngqibisa and Khumalo knew.
At first, I told myself that it's someone they know.
But
I saw in the manner in which it happened, or it was happening, because the person was even carrying a firearm.
Can you just explain, if you say you thought is a person that they know, what gave you that impression?
I don't know, just the manner in which the person came in, the manner in which the person appeared.
Right, let's now get some legal analysis on today's proceedings with Abigail Ngobene. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, what we saw today is that essentially the accused have all denied involvement in Senzo Mngqibisa's murder. The state believes he was killed in a robbery gone wrong. And now today we heard, amongst others, that the new lawyer for Ngobene, who's the third accused in this trial, Advocate Charles Mngqibisa, has told the court that they want to do away with a piece of evidence that speaks to singer Kelly Khumalo shooting the football star by mistake. What should we make of such a request?
Good evening to you and good evening to the viewers, and thank you very much for having me tonight. Perhaps one should say this is one of the complex matters that we have seen in the criminal justice, and this is one of the matters that involves a lot of witnesses. And of course, what is at the center of all witnesses is the credibility of their evidence. And from what we are hearing now, well, it is very at an inception stage to can jump before the drumbeat, but we are aware that there are witnesses that are still to be called. Remember as well, there are also issues of different dockets in this particular matter. But to be relevant to your question, I think the witness that we have seen and what we have heard today, he has taken the court through stages and which shows the close friendship between him and the deceased, but he has not yet get to the point where it's the gist of what we are here for on determining what could have killed Mr. Senzo Mngqibiza.
Advocate Mngqibisa, as far as I understand, will now have to bring a formal application for the evidence to be expunged. What will his evidence need to indicate as he tries to put it all together?
Well, it will be very dynamic for him to come to that particular application or that particular instance where part of the evidence has to be expunged from the records, particularly because he's not necessarily the only legal representation in the matter. Different legal representations are there in this particular matter, and what could be seen to be not useful on his side may be useful to other legal representations that are there. Remember, there's Advocate Mshololo in the matter. There's also himself, and there's also another gentleman who is representing another accused in the matter. So it's not necessarily on what is in the best interest of his client only. It's also on the best interest of these other accused people who are before this particular court, who of course are also entitled to a fair trial in terms of the Constitution and to have all evidence before the court tested.
I mean, at the same time, the former legal representative of four of the accused, Advocate Mngqibisa-Thusi, also surprise appearance today, requesting to see presiding judge Tshifhiwa Maumela in his chambers. But before you react, let's take a listen to the exchange that we saw today.
We should first see the judge in chambers, because the reason we are here, myself and my instruction attorney are here, that need to be discussed first in the chambers with the judge. It's a protocol, and that indication of me as the court officer showing the highest respect to this honorable court, that there are other issues that you cannot just say in the open court, whereas this one is televised. That's the request I did. And then I've agreed with my colleagues here before Mngqibisa came here. When Mngqibisa came here, I told him also in my introduction to him, then he said, okay, it's fine, he will wait for the secretary. Now what we are coming up with, flabbergasted. You see? So no, without any argument, I'm saying that we need to go to the chambers of the judge before the case can commence.
Right, I don't know how much you heard of that. I mean, disbarred advocate Malisela Defo and Titi Tobane disrupting the proceedings of the trial, essentially telling the court that they will bring a witness who is going to testify that Meyiwa was shot mistakenly by his girlfriend Kelly Khumalo in that scuffle with Longwe Twale. What does this now mean, this addition and this request, so to speak?
Look, we should take it from the point that any legal practitioner that appears before the court of law must be in the role of practitioners. I don't want to get to the nitty-gritties of whether this counsel does have a right or have a capacity upon which it can appear and make demands like that. And I wouldn't want to get and venture into the gist of who is instructing this particular legal practitioner and what could have been the discussion that was held off record. You'll remember, and when we hear the records, you'll see that it transpired that this matter was adjourned and they went on the chamber to discuss on the issue. And when they returned, it was no longer in and part of the legal practitioners who are appearing before this court, which could also mean that there are other issues that were out in camera, which then necessitated him not to be there. But I don't think at this stage there is any capacity upon which he can make such averments or make such utterances before the court if, from what we know, he is no longer an advocate allowed. He must clarify the capacity upon which he is making such, because if you are no longer a recognized advocate, you can no longer represent any client in the court of law. So his capacity of being there is seriously in question. It's something that may have to be ironed out. One has to know why he is there before we can even entertain what he wants to say.
I mean, before we let you go, in a case such as this, if anyone else had come in to say, I have a witness that may be beneficial to this trial, would that person be ignored, or what channels would need to be utilized?
I think if it's in the interest of justice and if the presiding officer feels that it's part of evidence that needs to be heard, yes, it can be heard and be tested. But of course, processes will have to be followed. Remember that witnesses should either be on the side of the state or witnesses should be on the side of the defense. Now, when he says he wants to bring a witness, on what capacity is he bringing the witness? In which side is this witness coming to elaborate the case? Remember that the state in this particular case has a duty to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt, but of course the accused persons are innocent before the court until they are proven guilty. It's on them to come and rebut the evidence that the state would have discharged to say they are innocent. And if Advocate Malisela says, I am somebody who I will call to come and help, is this person coming to testify on behalf of the state or on behalf of the defense? And if it's on behalf of the state, then it will have to include the National Prosecuting Authority to follow proper channels on how this part of evidence is introduced before the court. If it's on the side of the defense, then you will have to qualify on who on the accused persons is of interest on this particular witness, and how is this going to assist the case that they want to prove before the court.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for weighing in on this discussion. Legal analysis there on today's proceedings in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial.